Christ is risen, St. Mary's family. I hope you're all doing well. Today, May 11th, we commemorate St.Cyril and Methodios, the equals to the apostles in our church. But they were not always successful in their missionary efforts. Let's take a look. Born in Thessaloniki, both were highly educated. They studied at the University at Constantinople and were familiar with Slavonic dialects. They began their careers as civil servants. St. Methodios was a military man before becoming a monk on Mount Olympus. His brother Constantine, known as a philosopher because of his knowledge, was a librarian at the Church of the Holy Wisdom in Constantinople. He later became a monk with the name Cyril. In about the year 860, the Emperor Michael III and St. Photios, the famous patriarch of Constantinople, sent the brothers to the Khazars in response to their petition for teachers to expound to them the Christian faith. It is significant, I think, that they failed at their missionary efforts with the Khazars, but they didn't give up sharing the gospel with others. In the year 862, the Emperor Michael III and St. Photios, the Patriarch, sent St. Cyril and Methodios to Moravia at the request of their prince Rastislav. That is modern-day Czech-Slovak region, where the Slavic tribes had migrated to. It was ecclesiastical no-man's land between Rome and Constantinople at that time. Salzburg was the furthest west outpost of the Roman Church. East Franks claimed Moravia was under the jurisdiction of the Archbishop of Salzburg. Therefore, Moravia was an area where both the Frankish and Byzantine missionaries were sent for both religious and political reasons. Prince Rastislav asked for missionaries from Constantinople, probably in hopes to move away from Frankish political influence. Before St. Cyril and Methodius were sent, the brothers developed an alphabet called Glagolithic. This allowed them to translate scripture and the liturgy into that local language. Some Frankish missionaries were upset by this, especially those who believed in the so-called trilingualism heresy, the thinking that church and the Bible could only be done properly in three languages, Latin, Greek, or Hebrew. There was a different approach to mission work between the Frankish and Byzantine missionaries in regard to language, that is, the use of Latin versus the use of the vernacular. But St. Cyril and Methodios knew their history. They knew other languages could be used. After 4 years of being in Moravia, they left and went to Rome at the invitation of Pope Nicholas. By the time they arrived, Nicholas had died and Adrian became the new pope. Received with honor as heroes for their missionary work and also bringing the relics of St. Clement there, St. Cyril died in 869 in Rome and buried in the Basilica of St. Clement. In 869, Pope Hadrian made Methodios bishop of the city of Sirmium near the present-day Belgrade, and sent him back with jurisdiction over all of Moravia and Pannonia and authorization to use the Slavonic liturgy. In 872, Methodios was imprisoned wrongly by the Franks. In 874, Methodios was freed and went back to Moravia St. Cyril passed on to the Lord in 885. Their long-lasting legacy is that Old Church Slavonic is an outgrowth of Glagolitic, the language script the brothers developed. At the end of the 9th century, the Cyrillic alphabet was developed in Bulgaria, which is a basis of written Russian, Ukrainian, Bulgarian, Serbian, etc. Eventually, there is a link between the brothers' work and the conversion of the Russians in the 980s. The work of St.Cyril and Methodios, the equals to the apostles, has had such an immense effect on church history and the history of Eastern Europe. Their contribution really is incalculable. But today I ask that we remember that their first mission to the Khazars failed. Yet they are one of the most important missionary teams ever in the history of the church. Sometimes our important work for God doesn't always work out. Sometimes we fail. But that doesn't mean we should quit. St. Paul wrote in Galatians chapter 6, verse 9, "So let us not grow weary in doing what is right, for we will reap at the harvest if we do not give up." Christ is risen.